Hello, hello. This is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals and Let's Talk Moving podcast. With me today, I have Jacob and Travis, co-founders of WeMove.AI, the newest solution for moving companies looking to streamline their quoting process. Both Jacob and Travis have been in the industry for about 5 years on the sales broker side of the industry, became owner operators with pickups in 5 states and delivery to 48. How you doing
That's
today?
correct. Thanks. Doing well, thank you. And thanks for having us on the podcast.
No, thank
Morning.
you so much for joining me. So, guys, why did you choose to build technology inside of the moving sector?
Let's take a step back and think about the moving sector as a whole, right? It's between, for people that have been surveyed, it's the first to third most stressful event in one's life. And what we found was that although it's a massive market, $21 billion market, it's extremely fragmented, it's extremely inefficient, and it's extremely opaque. And what we wanted to do was streamline this process, not only for moving carriers, but for moving customers, so that it doesn't have to be the first to second to third most stressful event in one's life. That's where WeMove.AI came about.
Okay, okay, great. So, why AI? Why did you choose to use artificial intelligence?
Sure. So I think one of the most important things that we noticed when we had our moving operation was that one of the most arduous and time-consuming tasks of the sales representative was the capture of inventory and the accuracy of the capture of inventory. Most of the time, what we learned or what we discovered was customers are either in their car, they're not in their homes, they're trying to remember what they have from an inventory perspective. And we wanted to give the customer the opportunity to um, take a step back, do it on their own time, and use image recognition and artificial intelligence to give a 98% exact output of non-boxable and boxable items.
And now for a word from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com today to learn more.
Going back to kind of the summary, in order to solve the first problem in the moving industry, which is inventory capture, we wanted to use artificial intelligence to streamline that down from about 45 minutes to about 3 minutes. And in doing so, what we wanted to allow for is the moving carrier to focus on closing the sale, right? As opposed to capturing the inventory. When the carrier or the sales representative is focused on basically extrapolating information, the customers, they're just getting overwhelmed. They're not sure what to say. And experiences that we have were like, what's in your bedroom? A bed. Okay, what size? Maybe it's a king. Is there anything else? No. What about end tables? Well, what happens if they went in, they took one photo of their room, and we were able to capture that entire inventory in less than 11 seconds? That's what we wanted to do, and that's why we used AI, because it not only makes the experience better for the customer, but it also streamlines the process for the sales representative or the moving company as a whole.
Interesting, interesting. So, as I was saying to you guys earlier before we started recording, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, and this is coming from the sales industry, from the fundraising side before I got into moving, is that ultimately follow up is the biggest issue across the sales industry, period, not just moving. Because when follow up is not followed, money gets left on the table. Whether it's with us or other call centers that are out there, I'd like to think that we are better than any of our competitors when it comes to the follow-up process, frankly, because I am the owner and I understand the extreme importance of this, and I make extreme efforts to impart that knowledge onto my salespeople and make sure they have that understanding. Even with me making that push, you're still gonna have that as a concern. That still is a live issue, and money gets left on the table, whether it's for us, the salespeople, or you, the moving company, or whatever the case may be. So the question is, what, in your opinion, or currently in what you guys are building or you've built
Mhm.
already, what can AI do to help curb that process, to help with the follow-up process?
Absolutely. So there's a couple different things. So let's take a step back. If you think about the success rate of connection on the phone nowadays, it's very limited, right? So let's just use an example of 10 leads. 10 leads come in on average from what we've discovered in talking to moving carriers is you're going to make contact with three, you're going to close X, and seven will be left on the table. Now that's different for different companies, but on average, that's what we've heard. So for the seven that you're not able to make contact with, don't leave them on the table. So let's talk about ways to follow up with them, ways to engage them, right? And one of them is send a link that simply says, this is so and so from XYZ Moving, and I understand, I'm unable to connect with you. I can streamline your moving process in less than 5 minutes, give you an exact quote, and just take 5 minutes and take a look at this, go through the process, right? So there are ways that you can go about trying to capture consumers that in theory have been lost or unable to be connected with thus far. It's just one of those things where people don't pick up the phone anymore. Different people have different perspectives on this, but what we're seeing is technology is advancing quickly. And last year alone, 90% of all travel was booked online. 35% of all cars were bought online before even going to a dealer or even going to a dealer at all. Industries are changing and technology is advancing that. So one way to kind of capture that consumer that you're not able to make contact with and you're trying to follow up with is to use technology, is to use SMS, is to use email, and to use additional sources like WeMove.AI to give them an opportunity for both the carrier and the customer to have an overall better experience.
Does your company need more creative marketing and ad campaigns to improve traffic and organic leads? Well, Moving Sales Professionals has a solution for you. We have partnered with social media marketing agency that has over 300 million views on their ads and videos across social media. And they have generated over $35 million for their clients over the last 10 years alone. Their services include content creation, social media ads, pay-per-click campaigns, website and funnel development, Google Ads, email marketing campaigns, lead generation, and much, much more. For limited time only, they have discounted rates for their services. Sign up for a free consultation call with us via our Calendly link on our website or below this video.
Okay. Okay. What does your platform do exactly?
From a 5,000 foot perspective, a consumer can come on to our platform or to any of our carrier partner platforms. We also and go through the entire moving quoting process from 0 to 100. And basically, what I mean by that is, customer comes onto the platform, they answer a few questions, they give the information that's relevant, then they're asked to capture their inventory, and they do this by taking a couple images of each room. We then calculate the exact inventory at 98.5% accuracy, which then the consumer will have the ability to edit. So let's say, for example, there's 7 dining room tables and they only want 7 dining room chairs at a dining room table and they only want to take 6. They can simply click the minus button and remove it. We're going to extrapolate all of the recognized items from the consumer, and we'll do that in 11 seconds. That's our latency period from the image capture to return, which is pretty impressive, and that's what artificial intelligence allows for. So as opposed to a 45-minute inventory capture, our turnaround is 11 seconds of latency. Then the consumer has the ability, depending on which plan the carrier, if they're going through one of the carrier platform sites, they'll have the ability to get a quote, book their move, pay for their move, and have ancillary services like ship a vehicle, buy additional insurance, have concierge service. We have a full service concierge service free of charge to all of our customers and to all of our partner customers, our carriers. And in doing so, the customer basically was able to perform the kayak for moving, Priceline for moving. They book their entire move online themselves. The hybrid approach to that is consumer comes on, answers a few questions, uploads their image, inventory is output, and then they're able to modify their inventory. At that point, it's then redirected to a sales team. So the customer will see a pop-up that says, thank you, we received all of your information. And the next step here will be you'll be contacted by a sales representative to go over your quote and to answer any questions you may have. At that point, they're not presented with a quote because this is now the opportunity for the salesperson to build rapport when they contact this customer. And that's the most important thing that keeps the human element alive. What it's doing is just solving that inventory capture component, which is the most, again, arduous and and trying experience throughout the moving process.
Okay. So would you say then basically if the company, let's say the company is using your stuff to the point where all this capture is taking place and the only thing that they need to close, so basically the company doesn't no longer needs follow-up process. They just need to close or sit in place and waiting for these calls to come in. Would that be a correct representation of what we're talking about?
In a percentage of your leads, yes. So not everybody's going to want to go down that process, right? So those that are willing to embrace technology from a consumer-facing perspective would be more apt to go through this process. That means your conversions are most likely going to be much higher. One, because the consumer is more engaged and they'll be waiting for that phone call follow-up. We're not saying that WeMove.AI at this stage is here to replace the sales representative. That's not the case. It's here to assist the sales representative in closing more deals and for allowing the carrier alternative ways of reaching the end consumer, whether it's a sales room, whether it's a moving carrier, et cetera. Right? Because again, there will always be that party that still wants to, no matter what generation they are, that will still want to have that human interaction, whether or not they want to talk to you about their grandkids, about their whatever.
Sure.
That's always going to happen, and that's building rapport in a different perspective. But there's also a lot of people that don't want to have that conversation anymore, and that is becoming more and more, prevalent and relevant in this industry. And that's one of the reasons that, again, we decided to build WeMove.AI at this point in time. Not only that, and I'll kind of jump back a second. Had we tried to do this 2 years ago, I think the term AI was a scary term. Today, it's table stakes, right? Every company and their brother, no matter what industry you're in, is using the word AI. Whether you're using Zendesk as your CRM system, they have AI. Whether you're using, McDonald's, they have AI. That's just the reality of it. And now it's becoming, like I said, more of a table stakes term where people are more accepting than they were probably 2 years ago.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you have some numbers that you can throw me in terms of what percentage? I mean, if you have, share an experience, I'm not asking you certainly to share a company name that's already, let's say a company that's using your service now. I'm assuming that you have companies that use your service. What percentage would you have, say, goes through the whole process? What percentage of your clients, of the customers of a moving company clients goes through the whole process, let's say to the point of rep calling them, say, okay, I got this capture information about your move. I have your inventory. I have this, this, this. This is what the pricing is going to be, for example, let's say to that point, or halfway through, or whatever. Would you have some numbers to share?
Absolutely. So from a couple use cases that we're seeing currently, we're seeing about 10% that are pushing through are going all the way through the process to the end to getting their full quote.
And how long, on average, how long does the full process take?
It takes between 5 to 7 minutes depending on the user. Some users can take a little bit longer, but we're seeing an average of 5 to 7 minutes to get to the quote. And then we have approximately 65% that are going to the point of where they're just entering their inventory and having a sales professional call them back.
And at
Okay.
that point, we don't know what the close rate is because, again, that's offline. We
Right.
do know that, so that would be something that one we couldn't share either way. But at the end of the day, we don't have access to that information.
Okay. So one thing that I could see being useful in the future is I mean, you don't necessarily need to ask the company to share how much the person booked for. That's not what you're looking for. But for there to be a button that either the sales rep on the moving company and could click whenever the job is booked, because what that would do is obviously it would help you guys for statistics purposes to be well, and it would frankly help you sell your product because you could say that,
Right.
hey, I mean, obviously the booking part depends very much on the company. It's either that or perhaps like sending out like a 3-question survey to the actual customer that's looking to move that can mark, yes, I ended up booking with the company, or no, I did not ended up booking with the company. And of course, that's I mean, that number is kind of It would be a question number to degree because part of it has to do with A, the customer willing to pay whatever the company charges once they get through your process, and B, how good is the salesperson on the other end to actually close the
Right.
job. So those numbers are the numbers that you guys don't control. You're just controlling the technical side of it, and whether in the end, whether the booking percentage overall increases for the mover because they're using your stuff versus not using your stuff.
No, those are good points. Yeah. So right now, just for transparency, we push into the CRM system. So we can push the lead capture into the CRM systems, the majors so far, where the process is then taken over as if it's inside of the CRM. We do offer a very detailed dashboard broken down into a number of different components. You could almost use ours as a CRM. We've been told that in the past, but we're not competing in the CRM space. We're competing in the inventory capture and streamline space from the technology perspective.
Okay. And I mean, and honestly, in my opinion, I think it's best for any place to stick to one thing and one field. I mean, frankly, guys, one of the reasons why OnQ went out of business in the first place is because they were trying to compete in two arenas. They were trying to compete in the tech field, where frankly, having used OnQ CRM before and having used a lot of other CRMs, because obviously moving sales professionals, we use whatever is out there, whatever the mover
Right.
wants to use. So having that, I can tell you OnQ system was not, they were definitely our overpowered, but at least 5 to 10 other CRMs that are out there, they were definitely not at the top of the food chain by any means. So A, having to compete with the bigger dogs when it comes to CRM for moving companies specifically, right? And at the same time having a call center, it's a tough task because if you're trying to compete, you're trying to sell both of them, obviously, because you're basically making moving companies use your system every time versus using what they want to use, right? So if they want to use your call center, they have to use your system. If they want to use your system, they have to use your call center or whatever the case may be. Maybe not always to that point because you could have your own salespeople, but having to compete in both of those realms, you're actually putting yourself in you're hurting yourself in terms of potential money you can make. And at the same time, you still have to spend money on tech. You still have to spend money on people on the computer side of things to make sure that your CRM is writing properly and at least to a degree is able to compete with whatever else is out there. You ended up spending a lot of money that frankly you shouldn't spend.
That's right. And that was one of the things that we had talked about when we were outlining kind of the roadmap. And that was do one thing really well, which was build our inventory capture and our flow of process and leave the rest to everyone else and then integrate with all the third parties because we provide a solution that again is complementary to all of these CRMs and other types of technologies where we plug and play and we become or enhance that experience overall. So I think you're right on that, and I agree. And by spreading your wings too wide, sometimes it becomes disadvantageous, like you mentioned.
So let me play a little devil's advocate here. So obviously there's a inventory capturing softwares out there like Yembo and like LiveSwitch and what have you, right? So what is it that you're doing be above and beyond that? I mean, obviously you're in AI world and follow up and everything else, but what are you doing above and beyond that makes people go to that extra step versus just going with Yembo or LiveSwitch, for example?
So firstly, we're very cordial with the Live Switch team. We like them quite a bit. We use
Yeah.
them in our previous endeavors. What I will say is, Live Switch to me is is Google Meet is what we're on right now. This is there's no value add, right? Because other than just it's a good solution to capture and do a walkthrough, you still have to enter that information to CRMs. You still have to, it's still an arduous process, right? It's
Right.
rewind the video, fast forward the video, right? That's completely different. Now, Yembo, I don't want to speak about what they're doing. I have not heard positive things from them about them in the industry, but I again have never spoken with them. We did test their software. It seems very, very dated. It seems like, again, a very arduous process that's unnecessarily, and one I don't believe it's AI. At the end of the day, there could be patents and all the other stuff, but when you go one to one, in 11 seconds, I can process your entire room, and I can process that at 98.5% accuracy, line item every single item out, and give you the exact size, not fixed sizes based on direct inputs, right? So we're not operating on legacy software. We're operating on 2024 and 2025 technologies, and we're continuing to evolve with the artificial intelligence industry, right? Whether it be from the machine learning side or the image capture and recognition side. Right now, we can detect over 24,000 images. We are continuing to train our model. We have been so for about a year and a half. Even before we ever went to market, we were training our model. So, and again, most of our model is proprietary too. So it's internal for our building and what we've done from the beginning. When we're comparing ourselves to others, we're kind of in a different realm because we're focused on, again, true modern image recognition and machine learning using real artificial intelligence, right? And that's the output. That's the value proposition versus what else is out there in the market.
Okay. Interesting. So, guys, for those of you listening, sounds like this might be a solution for you. At least it's definitely something that's worth exploring because ultimately, like I said, follow-up process is something that's the weakest link for any moving company, any call center, that is the weakest link. So whether you want to team up with these guys and use our service or use your own sales reps in-house or use something else that's out there, sounds like it's something that in the long run, having a better follow-up process in general will help you increase your bookings, at least in perspective. At the end of the day, you still need to have closers.
That's the answer. Yep. If a customer is not willing to do it on their own, you need a good closer. That's what we've learned in this industry. There's nothing more powerful than a true closer in the moving space.
Absolutely. And that's the power of sales. But once again, Travis, Jacob, thank you very much for joining us.
You.
So once again, guys, check out WeMove.AI. We're going to make sure we have some links for you that you can click on. Please like, please subscribe. Please join us on the podcast if you're interested in presenting your perspective, talking about your company or your service. And of course, if you're interested in promotion, we can talk about that as well. But once again, thank you very much for joining Let's Talk Moving podcast. And like I always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.